Welcome here to Ljubljana, Slovenia. I'm very happy to be here. I almost barely made it because I was then missing my train at lunchtime in Villach. I had to go then wait 4 hours, 5 hours for the next train to go to Ljubljana. Today I have a 6.5 hour journey back to Vienna, and I think it's quite unacceptable. Additionally, today I hear the news of this tragic train accident in Greece, and I'm very sorry for the losses, and it underlines my case. What we have not achieved in the last 30 years, despite our better knowledge. I was myself sitting with Ignacio de Balola, the Commission Transport Secretary, Commissioner, in the end of the 90s, in the beginning of 2000, when we prepared enlargement. And the studies were all there that this is very expensive, we have to build that and we have to fund it. The illusion, which unfortunately the populists and the spendthrifty Germans have blocked, is very clear. We need euro bonds for joint infrastructure companies in the European Union in the area of energy and of railways and maybe of ports and some others. Yeah? But I want to focus about railways. Railways are very expensive and the tracks must be built by the state. I'm of course for a liberalized transport market. That means, you have Westbahn in Austria. You don't have that so much in Germany and France because they are blocking it. But you need, everybody should be able to operate on the rail tracks. But the rail tracks itself, the same like in the energy sector, must be owned by the state on the European level. Not by Austria, not by Kosovo, not by Greece, not by small. We have a very fragmented and segmented European continent in over 40 countries and 27 of them in the European Union, 9 coming in. And it makes no sense to have individual priorities and all this individual ownership, and we don't have the fiscal capacities in the smaller, newer countries, Eastern Europe, to build so expensive infrastructure like the big tunnels, the big high-speed railway network, to unify and to Europeanize all this infrastructure. It is impossible because the countries need to first build the motorway infrastructure. Obviously, that's the most important, to have basic communication. But of course, for the next level of prosperity, you need, of course, high-speed passenger train and a decent, functional, industrial kind of level of goods transport on the railways. And this is very expensive, and it must be paid by the European Union, not just funded, not just assisted, but similar like we do it in the EU with the Brenner Basis tunnel, where we connect Germany and Italy via Austria with this important tunnel, which is significantly paid by the European Union. But the smaller countries in Eastern Europe don't have the lobby, not the power. And of course, you can always say the economic interests are, of course, in the West. Yes, of course, because it's much more people, much more economic industrial power. So it is a better economic case. I understand that. But who else will build the railways? Now we see the Chinese. Do you want really the Serbs and the Hungarians go to China to build them? And the people there have also the right for high-speed railways and decent railways, and it's also economically beneficial to connect us ultimately with Japan, China, Korea, and with the east of Asia, and of course with Turkey and the Middle East via the Balkans and Ukraine in a decent transport infrastructure. Here comes a lot of economic reasoning then as well. And when I'm looking here, I always make the polemic that even the emperor could build a train to Trebinje in the south of Bosnia, even to Selenica in Herzegovina. There was a small, it was then from Trebinje, there was a small train. Yeah? It was not full scale, but it was a train service to Selenica. We don't have that today. And even the capitals in the northern Balkans, I'm now in Ljubljana, the connection is miserable to Vienna and to Frankfurt. It's a bit better, from Frankfurt, Salzburg to Ljubljana to Zagreb. Okay, sure. But the connection is not good. And back from Ljubljana to Vienna is a disaster. And back to Zagreb, it's a disaster. And we are basically now in 2023, and we have the railway infrastructure still of Yugoslavia or from the Austrian monarchy here in this region. and it's not acceptable. Of course, I know the trains were also slower back then, you know, I know we have moved on in technology, but it's like 30 years ago when I go south of Vienna, I'm going in the same train wagons I went to 30 years ago as a student from Linz to Vienna. I know them, they smell the same, they taste the same, they are like the same, and it's not good. The speed is the same. Like 30 years ago, in France and in Germany, they have really invested because they are nation states and they can pool money. And in the EU, we have failed to pool the funding on the top level, and that's really wrong. What we absolutely need to do is pan-European trains. There must be basically the money must be provided by the EU. There needs to be all the state infrastructure railway companies need to be sold to the European level. The countries will be compensated by the EIB by reduction of debt. We have anyhow too much debt on the state level. We put this debt on the EU level. We put the assets on the EU level. In the energy infrastructure, by the way, the same, because we have a huge funding lag in the energy infrastructure for the energy transition. We need to invest hundreds of billions. Hundreds of billions must be invested in the railway infrastructure for Ukraine to the Balkans to everywhere to be united. And this must be done. And Bill, I call since 30 years for that. We are gradually getting a bit better, but we are still very disappointing. And then the Chinese offer cheap terms for Serbia and Belgrade, and they built then very fast a train, and we are like the fools, seriously. And if I'm not, because I love, you know, by the way, I have my Klima ticket here. I like it. It's very good Klima ticket. I support it. It was very good. We need a EU Klima ticket. We need to think as a EU. It's not only like we have now invested a lot of billions, I don't know the exact number, for the tunnel from Graz to Klagenfurt, yeah, Choralpenbahn. It's good, but we have not done the tunnel between Linz and Graz, which is much more European. Like there's very few people from Graz to Klagenfurt going. But okay, it's also good. We can maybe connect the Graz-Klagenfurt tunnel somehow decently to Ljubljana maybe. And continue the tunnel and to have a good connection. That would be really good. And that would be really fantastic because we are Europe. If you have forgotten, I haven't forgotten, and it's a big neglect which we have not done. So I'm calling for a 2 trillion euro bond for victory, for Eastern European infrastructure, for the reconstruction of Ukraine, for the integration of the Balkans and Ukraine, for the rearmament of Ukraine and of Europe. And to get this all done, we need euro bonds, and we need that fast, and we need them now. And we need to get this done, and we need to pay for that infrastructure, but we need also common European companies in this infrastructure area owned by the EIB, managed on the European priorities, and then we will have less accidents, we will have faster service, we will have more prosperity in Eastern Europe and in Southeastern Europe and in Ukraine, because these things cannot be paid by the taxpayers of the small countries, often fragile countries, and in the case of Ukraine also at war. And we need to pay that as Europeans, because we are a European Union like the United States of America, if we want to be successful, or we are not, and we will fail. Failing is not a really good option. And the Chinese are also not building highways and railways in America, because the Washington is funding these initiatives, and the same we need to do. Biden has now really moved forward on that one. We failed again, and we need to fix that. Thanks a lot. Please fund the European trains, and let's start Ljubljana, Vienna, and from all the places until Thessaloniki, Greece on European level. And then these people who have tragically died on this tragic accident would be still alive if we had done better policy as a more united Europe, as a European Union, and that's what we should do. Thanks a lot. God bless the families of the victims, their lost souls, and please, let's be more united, because then we win and we will be successful and we will save a lot of lives.